All right, welcome to this Back to the Shop Class podcast. Tonight we got a special guest, Frank. I'm so sorry, you got to say your name for us.
Caccavale.
Caccavale. Woo! And we got our regulars. We got Tim, Duke, Nick, Matt. They're all here. There's very special connections between all of us here. Matt's going out to the International Build Show, and so is Frank. They're both building houses with students, and Tim and I are part of the Tech Ed Association of New Jersey, and Frank is the executive director. So there's a lot of connections here to cover, and Duke and Nick are very close by. So this is kind of like a East Coast representation, but also Matt connection through the International Build Show. All right, so enough of that. Let's get straight into the big splash that Frank has been making. Frank, what are you doing in the back of the school there? I assume it's the back of the school. In the backyard, they're like, yeah, we don't need parking. We're just going to make a house.
Yeah. So let me give just a real quick kind of background on where this started. So I'm in my third year at Roxbury High School, but the year or two prior to that, what was at one time constructed as our auto shop, which had been probably defunct about 15 years now. At the time, close to 10 years. And the current superintendent, she's still our superintendent, walked in there one day and saw that it was being used as district storage and said, this is an incredibly poor use of space that could be used for student learning. So what she did is, she kind of put out this poll to the community. We have this area that we'd like to turn into something. What do you wish we were teaching in schools that we're not currently? And there were a lot of ideas that came up on there. I mean, even so far as to things about cosmetology, there were ideas related to the business world, ideas related to programming, but and a lot of great ideas, interesting ideas that they kind of explored. However, there was a pretty consistent theme that skilled trades emerged as by far the most popular. So while not necessarily an expert in the skilled trades herself, not even that I would consider myself an expert, but she was like, all right, this is what we need to do. We just have to figure this out, folks, and challenged our principal, our assistant superintendent, and my supervisor at the time. That's the only person who has since switched, but challenged the three of them. What does this look like? They began working with an architect, designing a space. They began trying to research other curriculums and saw that there is not anything quite at the level of what they were hoping to do. So ultimately, they would hire me. I used to teach in another school district about 40 minutes from where I am now. And we would start to develop this program. In our first year, so that would have been the school year of 19 to 20.
Wait, Frank.
Yeah.
Just so I understand, I'm burnt out. I got no memory of what's going. Wait, so let me understand. So you were not teaching there, and they came up with this idea, and then they hired you away from another school?
Yeah.
I got that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's actually really cool story, because sometimes, usually like if a new idea happens, you have to like spend like a decade at a school before they trust you. And then you have to build the idea up within and get past all the glass ceilings. But this is different. Did you know them ahead of time, or they found you?
So, this is where, and we were briefly talking about this before we hit record, but I also serve as our executive director of the New Jersey Technology and Engineering Educators Association, our state level association affiliated with ITEA. I was not serving as the executive director at that time, but just as a small way of, and I know there's others here that are passionate about our local associations, but the benefits that you could get through them. I received our high school teacher excellence award, our high school teacher of the year. A huge deal. I mean, just something I was so excited to. A small chance to brag, but myself, Tim Zavacki, and Ron Grossinger went 3 years in a row, with that award. So we're all quite proud to be on that list with many of our mentors and close friends and colleagues. But so I managed, as a result of that, to become, a little bit more well-known, especially in that given year, than any other teacher. I am fortunate that the Woods teacher that I currently teach with, Paul Wood, a great friend of mine, I got to try to get him involved here. Yes, his last name is Wood, our woodshop teacher. We student taught with the same person.
Wait, I have to say, that's ridiculous.
I know. The kids find that hysterical.
That's
Parents laugh on
amazing.
back to school night.
We had
Mr.
this
Wood.
coach named Jim Steele, and he was made out of steel. That guy, he could kill you. He could bench press the entire team. It was crazy. Anyway,
yeah. So Paul and I,
Mr. Wood,
same person. Mr. Wood, Paul, we student taught with the same person. So we had that connection. We had worked together on some different things around the state. So that's kind of where they started to find me and began to talk to me about this role. In our first year, though, like I was saying, we did very, I'll say relatively simple things compared to where we currently are. But I really wouldn't say simple by any means. We built a shed. We built what was effectively a deck for an elementary school. It was on the ground. It wasn't actually attached to the building, but so we called it a boardwalk. But we built things and tried to solve problems around the school. The whole idea, even before I took the job, because I probably accepted the job in about April of the school year prior. And so I had those several months to work with the assistant superintendent of curriculum and discuss, okay, what is this going to look like? The idea had originally come up, and this is probably true of many other classes, where, well, why don't you just build a wall, take it apart? Anything usable that you can do or that you could save, hang on to it for next year, throw the rest out. Unfortunately, our local VOTEC does something very similar to that. And there's a real valuable lesson there. But we really wanted to avoid that we wanted to try to avoid that. We didn't want this stuff to just be done for no reason. So that's why we did the school-based projects. Also in that year, I built some very small things for Habitat for Humanity. And not before you get excited, they were actually, that's that little house there in that particular photo. That photo is a little.
I have to say, your story is well documented. It makes
I got to
it easy.
get better at Instagram, and I got to give props to several of you that every time I'm on the app, I see that you're doing great things in the school, and I'm like, gosh, I got to get better at taking photos. So I'm working to emulate the good example that you guys are setting. But that little house there. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
No. I'm just saying that Instagram is kind of how this all started, like how we all got the shop teachers together, and then Barbercheck from Northern Michigan, him and I started the podcast together, and it honestly came from just sharing and getting out of the comfort zone of just head down and just do little things. You got the right idea. You could start slow, and I always recommend that, but then you want to do stuff that's relevant, and you want to do stuff that you could share with the community and with the other shop teachers. And so I applaud you for doing that.
Well, somebody can yell at me if I go off on too many tangents or something that's not of interest to you. But when I was at Millersville University, when I got my master's in tech ed, I actually wrote my thesis on how to effectively promote school technology, engineering, education programs. So it's always been something that's interested me. In fact, I'll drop it in the chat. I'll find the link. I've actually written an article in the Technology and Engineering Teacher, ITEA's international publication, on this very topic. So promoting is something that's been important to me. The Instagram thing, though, I cannot take any kind of credit for, right, as somebody who studied promoting. My Instagram account really came from a presentation I saw Ron give, gosh, it seems like 4, 5, 6 years ago. And in it, right, he's going to laugh, right? It's funny. But he made a comment that said, you're already on social media. Somebody is telling your story. You have to choose whether you're telling your story. And, it was like, hey, and this was still, I knew Ron. I'm still young in my career and still learning a lot, but I was even more so 6 years ago. But, and Ron and I had lunch that day. Actually, again, I don't want to embarrass you, Ron.
No, this is good.
What we discussed.
I'm so glad that worked out. That was a last minute presentation that Jason approved, and he said, go for it. And I went in there and I gave, you got to understand, we are at the edge of social media being acceptable. It was right on the edge. So I was probably about 6 months ahead of the edge. So it seemed like a controversial thing. Now, if you gave a presentation on social media, people would be like, well, yeah, So, but at the time, it was controversial. So what I had to do is I had to handle all the doubt, which was that, oh, well, I can't post. I'll get in trouble, the district. And I was saying, either you're going to tell the story or someone else will. And to be fair, I stole that line from Gary Vaynerchuk. And Vaynerchuk is like a social media like monster. But it's very practical in that if you don't tell that story, that's it. Someone else is going to tell the story, and they're going to do it in their way, which will be negligent or not the full story, or they'll nail it. But very unlikely they're going to nail your story because it's your story.
So and very much during that presentation, Ron was actually met with resistance, more so from administrators that were there, because that conference naturally is going to draw that mixed educator bag, which is great. It's one of the values of the conference. But there was some initial resistance, and maybe reluctance is almost the better word, that we was met with at the time. But, through working through all these things, through some of my promotions, I became involved with Habitat for Humanity, largely because I am not a home builder. I went to college to do this tech ed world. I have a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree in it. I was a fine woodworking teacher. In fact, my last job before this, I was more of a robotics teacher and computer science world. So I had to figure out how to learn this. So I just started volunteering with Habitat. Ultimately, they would ask that we do some very small things, and Ron had a small photo of it for a big fundraising event that they do. So it wasn't a home. It wasn't even a piece of a home. It was decor. But it allowed my foot in the door where now all of a sudden I'm quite literally at the right table with key leaders, being applauded in front of 500, 600 people at this large scale fundraising event, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. But so I got to know the CEO. I got to know these things. And ultimately, and I've got some photos I can share too, where we created this kind of house project right before the shutdown happened. I'm talking like the week and a half before, right before I left for the ITA conference that year, which I know Tim was actually supposed to go, wasn't able to. It got shut down with COVID. We had to leave early. But literally the day I left, before I got in the car and drove to Baltimore, I met with Habitat leaders and my superintendent and said, I think there's a way we could build a house. What does this look like? I'm fortunate that I was given a lot of yeses. Something that, I don't want to brag about my school district, but I have to. In that many school districts, and not to put anybody down, but even school districts I've worked in before wouldn't have said yes. They wouldn't have been that supportive. They were like, well, let's see. Can you figure this out? So because we're in the old auto shop, we had directly behind our room 7 parking spots that at one time were likely used. Oh, I want you to work on my tires today. And that would be where you would park for the day, or where they would park a project car. So ultimately, I was able to take over that space. There are 7 people that hate me as a result. That lost their dedicated parking spot. But I
have to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
It's really funny. That's exactly what it takes. You do have to put your elbows out a little bit to be a shop teacher. It's interesting that you can't just teach. Being a shop teacher, you have to push out, you have to move up, you have to communicate and build your own programs and whatnot, because it's just, if left to its own device, what happens is they just use it as storage. And the funny thing is that when I first got to the shop where I teach now, they were using it as an indoor parking lot. There's only 3 spots, I guess you could put in, but they were shop teachers, and I had to kick out shop teachers to actually use the space. But they respected that I wanted to use it, but they assumed that I'd be okay with them using that as an indoor parking. And I'm like, no, you got to go.
Well, even think about me too, right? So, and you'll see photos. I think you can see my screen, right, Ron?
Yes.
Okay, so I tried to assemble some photos to help tell this story, but please ask questions along the way, or we can go off on a tangent and skip whatever my slides are.
No, I like it. You're doing great, man.
But so even this room that I'm in, my lab right now was buildings and ground storage. So, unfortunately, when I was starting my job, there were a team of buildings and grounds people, and I would say that my district has the best B&G team around. Phenomenal guys, great friends, incredibly skilled. But I basically started as their enemy in some regards, right? Because they lost this incredible amount of storage space. They lost the convenience of being able to park their cars directly behind it. They lost a lot of things in the name of improving the skilled trades, which is, of course, where their livelihood is, their skill set is. So it's that weird kind of battle. And, we've since become great friends and they help me out with so much. It's why I believe I've got the facility that I do, is because of their knowledge, their expertise, their ability to do projects really well. But, all in all, that kind of gets us to where my second year started. And this was, of course, the year we came back for half days in what would that have been? The fall of 20. And in a year where we had virtual Mondays for almost the entire year, half days for 75% of the year, we were closed to in-person instruction for 7 weeks. Of course, we know that that doesn't mean we stopped teaching, but you can't exactly teach hands-on things. We were able to do other content, but we weren't able to work on the house during that time.
Right.
And in what could have been only described as the craziest year we've ever seen, we decided to tackle the largest service project our school district has ever taken on. We knew going into this it would be a 2-year project. I will admit that we didn't get as far along in the first year as we wanted. And the current year kids, I teach exclusively seniors, so the current crop of kids are working. They've got to move and push to get this done on time. But this is literally where we start, where you'll see that we start out learning how to read the blueprints. And we actually start with the walls, which sounds
so let me
weird.
just
Go for it.
Yeah, we'll just interrupt for a second. Just kind of you start by making the walls on the floor flat. That's actually interesting. I know nothing about building the trade. I'm just every time that we do an episode about building the trade, I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, this is so cool because you could like build a house with wood. It's like that sounds silly, obviously. But to me, it's amazing because I'm working with car stuff. So you just start on the floor there and make a perimeter?
Yeah. So we just started. We would call this in habitat lingo, although I'm sure other construction people would use this too, a panelized build, where we build in panels. And then once all the panels are done, this begins to come together like an erector set, where literally it all of a sudden went from nothing to something because it was just a matter of screwing and nailing in pieces together. But that's, an example of the kids hopefully learning, we're covering all the wall framing, all the terminology, and how to make sure this is square. We ultimately would stack the walls like that. That's all but like I've got one 13-inch wall in the current half of the house we built. We built that one when it was basically time to go, but we panelized everything else.
Okay.
And then we began working on the deck. So typically, of course, if you were going to stick build your own home, you would have to do this in the other order. What it allowed us to do is we are going slower than a construction crew. I have the kids 75 minutes a day. I do teach this twice. So I have 2 times 75 minutes a day every day. They see me twice as often as any other school in the high school. We do an A-day, B-day schedule. They have me both days. So either blocks 2 and 6 or 3 and 7. It is in
right.
Oh, yeah,
Let me just put a feather in your cap there, because this is very difficult to do because you're doing it within, even though it's a modified, you said it's 75 minutes instead of, I have a 40 minute period, but 75 minutes, it's longer. But however, that's still very difficult to do. And you're doing it within the school day. So you only work on this once a day with the students, or is it twice a day?
Twice a day, because I have 2 different groups of kids.
But still, it's a different group, which makes a difference. And so this is not a dedicated after school program.
Right.
This is not a dedicated thing. This is
and it's
during
not
the day.
A vocational course, where typically students in a vocational program would have it for perhaps a larger part of their day, up to maybe even half of their day, the kids that go to our county VOTEC. So
Frank,
this, and we're very
God
proud of
bless you.
that.
This is not easy to do.
We're a traditional comprehensive high school. The other thing we're proud of is, again, another feather in our cap. This is the very first year we've seen this, or we're doing this. This is an honors course. This, Woods 3, Woods 4, and our top 2 levels of drafting, honors credit. And I helped push that along for this school year. And it's not just us. What we pushed along was we wanted to make sure that kids are getting the credit that they deserve for whatever they're good at, that they shouldn't just be rewarded if they're good at, playing the game of school. We should celebrate kids that are in AP Bio. We should celebrate kids that are in AP Calculus. I'm preaching to the choir here as educators saying that. But we made 11 new courses honors. Some in my department, we created honors gym, honors choir. We made it that you now get honors credit for what you're good at. And there's a couple great videos, which I'll make sure you guys get. But a video that came out this past week, American Plumber Stories, which I was going to talk about later. In it, one of the kids that's from my program that's highlighted talks about that, he never thought he was going to get this type of credit or accolades, academic accolades, because he was not going to be able to take an AP course. But now he's getting credit for what he's good at and where he quite literally excels. We're very proud of this.
Yeah, I think that's a great premise that you're talking about there, because one criticism I have is of the school system is that instead of highlighting strengths, they ask you to memorize a bunch of stuff that's probably going to be obsolete within a year or two anyway at the pace we're moving. And then if by chance you get a really good coach or you get a really good teacher, so you have like memorization and chance. But instead, what they should have is emphasis on what you're good at and push you guys ahead. So if you have an advanced class, people can strive for something. If there's something to shoot for, what is the not for nothing, but what's the advanced gym class?
So I do believe I know they have to do more things or some kind of essay or something. Like they're not just giving it.
It makes sense though, because imagine if you're an athlete and you take it very seriously. What if you become like a yoga instructor or you become a paid athlete on the field? I mean, why shouldn't you focus on this? You could have a whole career just based on understanding. What if you become a physical therapist or even a surgeon, like a foot surgeon for sports medicine? So it's like, I think they should have advanced. You should have track.
Well, the other thing that it does is, and any guidance counselor would tell you, well, we wouldn't answer this question, but inevitably, there's going to be an 8th grader or 9th grader that comes in and tells their guidance counselor, I want to be the valedictorian. How do I mathematically get there? And they would, if there's no honors in our elective area, they just will never take our courses. So what it at least, I hope it does, is it puts us all on an even playing field. Any type of course you want in this school can become honors if you're willing to put the work in. Now you take what you're interested, passionate in, and what's relevant to where you see your life going after high school.
Wow, that's an interesting point. I didn't think about that. So if someone's trying to go for the, everything, for all the marbles, yeah, shop class is out because it's not part of the I've had this before. I get kids come into me and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't take your class because I'm going to be a doctor. And I'm like, and then I give them the argument of, you can't read how to, ride a bicycle. And so that, if you're going to be a surgeon, you got to learn about robotics. So then by argument, they are convinced, but not by credit. They're taking a hit credit wise. I see what you're saying.
And this is something too, if we ever want to do another, conversation all around promoting, like in my master's thesis and the research that we did, one of the ways that was identified as being the most attractive to students and parents is by having honors courses within the sequence. We could certainly make an argument as to whether or not we agree that that's what should motivate someone, but there's this is the reality that this is what motivates certain kids. So we have to just, as educators, okay, how do we now work around what we know motivates them?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's not a system that I would endorse. However, this is the system we have. So we need to play up as a part of it as shop teachers. Why are we cut out of the deal? Yeah, I agree. That's an interesting. See, this is stuff you think about because you're executive director of the state, tech association. I don't think of this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, well, if they don't want to take the class, fine.
Well, and this is where, in certainly in my roles in our other education associations, and as well as kind of our department leader here in my own school, the stuff I really try to focus on, and why I'm appreciative for stuff like the Shop Class podcast, that we can have these meaningful conversations and we could figure out, okay, we can do these brainstorming. We could talk about, could this work? And then in a year, we could come back and say, like, what if I came back and said, guys, what? I tried the honors thing. it didn't work the way I wanted to. Or in a year, I said, we saw a noticeable change in the number of students that signed up. Like, that's why I'm so appreciative that stuff like this exists. I know Ron and Tim will both text me and tell me you got to make more time for it, but hopefully I can make more of these calls in the future.
Oh, don't worry, man. Listen. Tonight is awesome. Let me just go around real quick. If you're on a roll, and I love
Yep.
that. If we could just take a second to go around. I'm just curious if anybody else here is running like what's considered like an advanced class. Like, for instance, I have 3 intro classes and I have 1 advanced, which is a double period. I fought for years to get that, but it's not considered an honors class, so I'm probably missing out on the kids who want the honors classes. And I didn't think of that until you just brought it up.
Well, and I said too to my supervisor, I said, most of my students will never have an opportunity to take an honors course. It's just not, and not to knock the kids that we do get that are in our top 10%. We all know that we get a couple of them, but let's be realistic. It's not the majority of where our clientele is. So this is where, why do we make them feel bad because they can't take any honors courses?
Right.
So that's another argument you could try to use.
Yeah.
Same thing. We're also in the process. This will be the first year we're doing it. We're creating our own honor society. I got tired of sitting there at graduation and seeing those kids with cords, science honor society, French honor society, music on, like all of that stuff. And I don't want to knock them. That's a great accomplishment. But where the hell was the cord for my students? So,
Frank, this is awesome what you're saying. Yeah. I didn't even think about this area. I really didn't even think about it. I kind of disregarded it, but it's true. And it's like, we interviewed a NASA rocket scientist that she is working on the new effort of NASA to go back to the moon, but make a space station, which sounds like fantasy, but it's real. And she graduated from the high school, not from my program. She graduated before I got there, but she said in the morning, there was like a airplane, avionics or whatever class, like a shop class that she had. And she attributes that to the spark that led her down the path. So when somebody is giving honors to people, but then no honor goes to people that took like an advanced shop class, it's not quite fair. That's not balanced. So I agree that we should have honors for shop class. It's amazing. Let's just go around real quick. Does anybody else here have like a advanced, what would be considered like an honors class? And have you guys thought about this? What do you think, Matt? Oh, sorry.
I don't have advanced, but my kids. Am I going?
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Go, Matt. Go.
Okay. Sorry if my internet's being a little glitchy at the moment too. I don't have an honors program, but since I got my master's, I did mine in construction management. So this year is the first year. Well, we've had it in the past with another teacher when he had his master's, but this first year with me teaching that with our local community college, they get college credit for taking my class. So it's not honors, but it is college credit. And it can go towards their associates as electives, or if they continue to go through Lincoln Land Community College, they can get the construction certificate. It goes towards that. So that's, as far as that kind of goes. But thing is, that was a challenge. I have out of my 27, 26 kids, I only have 4. And because when none of your kids are college bound, it's like, who cares? So it all sounds good in theory. And some other students that, classes that, that number may jump up to 50%. I don't know. But all the kids are like, I'm not going to college. It's free. I told them, I said, guys, it's free. Just sign up. All you have to do is fill out a online form and you get the credit. Whether you do something with it or not, who cares? It's free. It's so, but that was the one thing the problem I had with it was, everybody going in trades isn't going to college, right? So it wasn't that popular. Now, I never looked at it the way Frank's looking at it, where now we offer, it is college credit. Well, maybe other kids may think, oh, I'd do building trade since I'm getting a college credit. Now we may get some kids that were maybe on the, really didn't think about it, but now they could use it because instead of taking a college course, they could knock out elective. So I can see how that could work out. Going at that angle with trying to snag other students that may not fit our stereotypical demographic.
And on a similar note there, and this might be especially relevant to those of you that are New Jersey based, but actually I'm hoping the week I get back from that home builders show, I have a lunch meeting with somebody from Lincoln Tech, which is a technical school very popular in our area. I know they have a lot of campuses. I'm not positive it's actually nationwide, but it's very popular in our area, where we're going to hopefully sign the articulation agreement where we're going to get them out of 2 of the 12 months of their program, whether they go into electrical or HVAC. Our students finish our course with OSHA credits. I'm actually an OSHA trained or a certified OSHA trainer for OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 credentials. Our students finish with, this is through, if you're a New Jersey person, New Jersey Manufacturing Extension Program, NJMEP out of Cedar Knolls. It's totally free, but you could become a certified manufacturing professional through an online course that they do. So I try to filter that into the homework of my course. So it's just a matter of those industry-based credentials. If you get Perkins funding or any of that stuff, which again, another topic we could probably discuss in one of these, all of that counts towards those types of certifications that kids need to get in order to get your Perkins funding.
Huh. Interesting. Wow. This is wild. There's like
and
a whole different level, Frank.
When the kids take it with me, depending on how the house build goes, it can either count for 2 classes or 4 classes, and they get the OSHA 10 with it.
Okay.
So, like I said, I like Frank's idea though. It could. I'm going to remember that we could snag a few other students just on that. And the good thing is, those kids are usually, even though they may not be most technically skilled at what we're doing, they are going to be kids who are probably respectful, eager to learn, and not going to have any behavior issues. So I'd be more than welcome to welcome into the class.
Yeah.
Right. And this goes into, again, most of what I do is from a promoting standpoint. That's where I focus my graduate research on. It's where it's kind of my thing. I was going to talk about that later too, some of what I did to promote this. But in that article that I'll share, it's called Promoter Perish, which was in the technology engineering teacher. There's a quote in there. Jim Flowers wrote it in an article in 1998, but where he talks about that the school needs to learn that our classes are not a dumping ground. And now 1998, our current students weren't even born in that year. And so many of us are still feeling like our classes are at times considered a dumping ground. It's a matter of how we change this perception.
Yep.
And I think we're starting to do that, little by little in each of our districts, each of our states. But we're starting to make sure they realize, no, this is a real class. Again, I hate to get off on a tangent.
No, it's good. Do it.
Man, I have had numerous conversations with administrators, but how many times have you been in a faculty meeting where they refer to academic classes, academic teachers? Well, what the hell? We're not all academic? Like, what am I doing here? I have 3 college degrees, and I'm not an academic teacher. And so helping them to understand required courses, elective courses, but we're all academic. So again, another one of those things I'm trying to push in our local district to just let's use the right nomenclature so that we're not seen as just, we so easily become, we're the teachers that are dirty. We're usually dressed the poorest as a result of what we do.
That's me. Sorry about that. That's probably me.
But right. So, but we got to make sure, we are still an academic program, producing really great skills, really great kids. Just we're non-traditional teachers. I would be okay with that title, but it's not that we're non-academic. Another thing that we're fortunate our school district did way before I got there was we got rid of where we created a schedule where our students are not pulled from classes. They're pulled from study halls. Every kid has a study hall. So your band lesson, your science lab, they're pulled from study halls and not from gym, not from electives. And our assistant superintendent will tell you that he got tired of, this kid needs more math support, needs to do better at reading. Well, let's pull him out of the classes that he likes so that we could shove more of the class that he clearly doesn't like down his throat. So again, we tried to create that schedule that allows for this and create and makes it clear that all courses are equal.
Yeah. It yeah, there's a perception problem with the shop class. I always find it funny when you just ask simple things like like for instance, the kids are on the stress about grades and SAT scores. So I knock it down in a joke. I ask them, hey, what kind of shoes you got on? And they always got like Nikes or something like that. And I was like, hey, did you check to see, what the SAT scores are for the person that designed those Nikes? And they're like, no. I was like, oh, well, you must have checked to make sure that the CEO of the company got a good test score. You didn't check? And they're like, no, I didn't check. Oh, but the factory worker. What about the factory worker? Nope, they didn't check. You just go down the line. Nobody cares. You don't care. What they care about is whether it performs. Does the shoe, is it comfortable? Does it perform? Was it the right price for you? Does it say the right thing about, sports or whatever, like promotion? So this is what people care about. The grades is part of like a game to get yourself into a school. And then once you're at that school, there's no guarantee once you get there. So what I would like to say about our classes is they are the application of all the theory classes. And so, how could you put that aside? Now, putting it, the application, yeah, it's going to get dirty because you're applying something. You're actually doing something. It's where the rubber meets the road. So I would say that the theory classes are just as important, but not one is higher than the other, because how could you just study stuff and not actually do anything? There's no way that even works, because you can't read how to ride a bicycle. It's not possible.
And it's our job as educators, especially as technical educators like we are, to help the guidance counselors, the admin, the students themselves learn that becoming technologically and engineering literate, like we're able to produce in our classes, is so fundamentally important for a graduate that, and we've got to make sure that everybody gets educated on that fact, that this is what's going to produce the best well-rounded individual when they walk across that stage of graduation.
Exactly. Interesting. Very cool. This is good stuff. So, first of all, thank you, because you're doing the background work that all the shop teachers are asking for, basically. And we can all help each other. But man, you have nailed it, and you articulate it well. Whereas I'm like an '80s comedian. I'm just like, yeah, look, I got this good analogy. But you're different. You're like, okay, look, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the practicality, and let's look at the stats and the laws. And I'm like, to me, I'm looking at a kaleidoscope. I'm like, I can't. Stats and laws.
And that's where, so I've really tried to do my best to really promote for the students, promote even the community, right? Programs that get cut are not supported by the community. I would like to think I never have to worry about that again. I mean, I'm going to keep pushing to make sure I never do. But I am all over in promoting. I have been the front page of 5 different newspapers since January 1 of this year. I have been on News 12, which is a local New Jersey station. I've been on the local New Jersey news of Fox and ABC. 2 weeks ago, Fox and Friends broadcasted live to a national audience, standing directly in front of this house, interviewing me. National live. American Plumber stories this past week. And then, doing stuff that's maybe not quite as high profile as some of that. Tomorrow, spending my lunch period with a local Rotary Club, making sure that the community knows. And that's where I really believe that this project is not Frank or Mr. C, whatever you want to say, took on a community service project. It's not even that my students and I are doing it, or that the school and I are doing it, but our community is doing it. Local Rotaries are contacting me about how do we donate. Local churches want to know how they can come and volunteer. And it's becoming just this thing. And we had just these great events. We've seen, I've got some other photos here just so you could see a little bit about what the kids are doing. And
cool.
I'm always happy to talk about some of the technical side of this. I don't always know the answer, but I could help you get the answer with some of the construction experts that I utilize. We've gotten some great donations, but I do have photo here towards the end. This was a huge wall signing
Wow,
event.
that's
that
a
we did.
great photo. Look at that.
So it's obviously taken from a drone. One of our great district administrators helped me out with this. I'm up front. I'm not at the podium at this point, but I'm near the podium. I was the MC of this event. Last June, while this was still one half of the house was here, now a second half of the house is parallel to it. We had the community come out and sign all the wall studs. And they left messages. We had the neighbors of where this house is going. If I haven't said this yet, the house is staying in our town. We thought that was critical. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that so these kids that live here will come to our school. I might even teach them one day. But then all these people here, probably about 125 in total, signed the house. So we had the neighbors, all the administrators in my town, the students themselves and their parents. I had the state senator, the state assemblywoman, representatives of our home builders club, representatives of all of our town council, the mayor, all of our local associations, and really have tried to become this large scale thing the community knows about. In that article, I keep referencing it, but it is, of course, a real, I have a lot of sense of pride over publishing in a national journal like that over something I'm passionate about. But I talk in there about you have to be news. So this has allowed me that we're news. And that's why we're getting a lot of great publicity. So we're so just pleased about that and excited for what we've gotten to do.
It's awesome. Now, just a little tech question. Is it on wheels?
So that is my most common question. So it is not on wheels. We're going to bring a crane in to pull it out and put it on trailers. Let me see if you can kind of see it here. I think you guys can see my mouse. You'll notice that these trusses actually fold up and down. So this does not lay flat. It doesn't fold all the way over on itself like a book. But when we need to, this roof it does have a pivot point. It'll be kind of under where he's cutting. But there's a pivot point right about here that will allow it, that will at least get below the limit to travel on the road between the height of the structure and the height of the trailer. So our plan is in May to bring a crane in, 2 trailers, pick these up, put them on the trailers, or fold the roof, pick them up, put them on the trailers. We'll bring 1 truck in. It'll move the first trailer out to the site. It's about 6 miles. The crane will go out to the site. The crane will, once the trailer is left there where it needs to be, the truck will come back around and pick up the second trailer. And we'll use the crane to set these 2 on a foundation that Habitat is doing for us. I'm sure I mentioned this, but this, of course, is being given to a Habitat for Humanity in our area, Mars Habitat. But we'll we'll move these over there in mid-May. The final month of school, my students and I will more or less sign out of school. I want to be careful when I say that because I'm not signing them out of school like they're no longer in school, but we are actually going to we're going to take their textbooks back. They're going to turn in their Chromebook, and their entire day will be meeting me at the site every morning at 7 a.m., working until 2. And for the last 4 weeks of school, that's going to be their entire year. If at any point they don't, if they're late, if they don't show up, their butt gets bounced into math class or whatever, where they've got to take their finals. But that's how we're going to hopefully try to tie this up. I would love to say I believe that we're on track, that right at the end of the school year, we're doing that ribbon cutting for a family. Honestly, 4th of July is a more reasonable target. So we're going to have to utilize some other Habitat volunteers, but in early July, we'll hopefully be doing that big event where we will get the family there. And I expect this to be, our school is going to make a big deal out of this. I've already said, how do we get the marching band there? There's a country music singer that's contacted me and he wants to know how he can come.
Wow.
So many of you, Matt, I wish you were closer, but Ron, Tim, you guys that might be within 40-minute drive.
Yeah, let's
go. This might be worth it for you to even come out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Frank, you're on fire, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
Frank, definitely let us know. I mean, let the association know. Let anybody you physically possibly do know. That'd be great to go out there and support, fellow shop teachers and.
Yeah.
When are you thinking that's going to be again, Frank?
We're thinking beginning to mid-July is a more reasonable goal.
All right. Well, I need to take a road trip out northeast and meet some of these guys anyway. If the stars
Okay.
align,
Yeah.
keep me posted.
Yeah.
I can't
No, I was
guarantee
thinking
that.
about that, Matt. I think, right, I'm the first in our group that's going to get to meet you, right, next week.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
that all sounds great.
Great. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you will
Now-
be the first one. Yeah, because I haven't met Barbercheck. Obviously, these guys. I've never been any farther north on the East Coast than Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
I have never been up that way, and yeah,
Nice.
I don't know. I'm
Well, we got to plan. Maybe we'll play. Maybe we could plan to get together around this thing. That would be
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Keep us all informed on that one, Frank. Because like I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, I'll make sure you guys. I'll send it to you too. But I do a weekly newsletter that just highlights. It's just brief, but highlights some photos of what we're doing. I'm going to make sure that we mention. I'll get the link to this podcast when we're
Yeah.
ready. In the newsletter.
Oh,
And,
it'll be ready quick. I'm actually late on last week, but that's just a click away.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
and Frank, I can
Sure.
post it. I'll put it in the email, the newsletter email that we put out every week.
But yeah, so I'll make sure if anybody's interested and wants to see that, I try to make it short because people, of course, short attention span. Also, as teachers, you get it. We don't have a ton of time, but I try to just really highlight what we're doing, and I send it out to everyone, the parents. I send it out to all of these donors. I had to make a lot of relationships with donors to make this happen, and send it out with people that are interested, like our Rotary clubs, our Kiwanis club, things like that.
Nice.
Now, Frank, are you going to do all the drywall on location, or are you going to do it here in the
So there's
in the parking lot?
directly in between the two. I don't know if I've got a good one that shows the two kind of half sitting there. That mating wall is directly, it has an exact duplicate in both halves. We're not going to be able to do, of course, anything touching that. We are anticipating trying to do the drywall here at our school. We're planning on gluing the drywall down, which is a trick that we picked up from contacting modular home companies, because that's what this is. It's a modular home. So we are planning on doing the drywall and things here. We're going to do the insulation. Of course, before we do that, actually, we're hoping to put the kitchen cabinets in and lay most of the flooring down before this moves.
How much will this weigh?
Somebody asked another question, but I do actually have that in an email that I could find.
I was going to say, do you have at least roughly calculated for the overall weight for this thing to be moved? I mean, you would think you want to try to cut weight by not including the drywall, not including like some of the cabinets and things like that. But I mean, obviously you want to get some of the fixtures in, such as the plumbings and the sinks and everything. But
so Habitat is actually taking care of moving this. I am copied on every email, though, that has anything to do with this project, but Habitat is taking care of moving this. But I could say, because I was copied on an email today, as we start to work with those subcontractors and line up everything up, they're an estimated weight of 22,000 pounds each.
Wow. That's amazing.
I hope that I don't even know. I'm sure that's right based on their director of construction that sent that email. But like I said, wasn't involved in any of that calculations. So if it's comically more or less, you'll have to tell me offline so that you don't embarrass me.
We got Mark's here.
Mark's twitching.
Mark was twitching.
No, I'm impressed. There's nothing but respect for what they're doing. Totally impressed.
Frank, do you know Mark?
I'm not sure if we've met before.
All right, no problem.
Yeah,
Mark.
we went to high school together. We played softball over by there.
Mark.
Seriously, Frank. I mean, there's nothing better than this, and I'm really apologize for joining late. I didn't want that to happen, and so I'm going to rewatch and reshare because I was so looking forward to seeing the work, and I think it's exemplary. I also played softball with Matt Bloomquist down in Taylorville for years, so everything exemplary, Ron. Really incredible that you're hosting this tonight.
No, this is good, Frank. Mark is like super supportive, and he's got great ideas, and he represents an interesting piece of tech called the T-Stead. And basically, it's my favorite phrase that I've ever learned in my whole life is the thermal break. which is instead of letting the stud transfer all the energy, you actually have kind of like studs that are offset and you connect them. So you put insulation in between. So you have the structure, but you don't. Anyway, long story short, Mark has been a great addition to the Shop Class podcast, very supportive. He comes from the trade industry. And so seeing you guys do this stuff, like building stuff with the students, I'm sure he's excited about that.
And I'm so glad to hear that we're getting interest from the trade industry. I mean, we're, and Matt is too. I know we're both getting, a lot of interest now, and it's continuing to grow. But, and we all know this as teachers, we can't solve this problem ourselves. We can't fix the skill gap by ourselves. We can't stop this negative connotation of shop class by ourselves. It's going to require us to get the buy-in of a lot of key stakeholders, with the industry being one of the big ones.
Yeah. It's fun. It's amazing. I love seeing this. It's kind of like the cavalry has arrived finally. I didn't have shop class growing up because they thought it would be like a bad thing, and so they cut it in our town, and then they cut it in most places. Sometimes the shop teacher retires and they just don't replace them or whatever, or her. And so this is great. It's coming around. I mean, STEM was interesting. It kind of got a lot of the college bound, quote unquote kids to join and stuff like that. But I think it really needs like a bigger push. STEM is all right, and it got robotics involved, but it doesn't really tell the whole
I think
story.
STEM is good for us. I agree with that. I believe in that. But what has happened, and of course you've seen this in your school, is now every other subject wants to squeeze their way into that acronym, right? We see STEAM, we see reading. I've seen STEAMs with 2 S's at the end for social studies. But that's where it's like, this is just, it went from a really great thing for us to this is just becoming utter nonsense. And so, that's been a real problem. But you're right. I'm glad to see we're hopefully getting some more recognition, and technology, engineering, education. Like, and why I'm so proud of what we do is that this is just a general course. I've got kids that will go to college, that will study stuff that are technical. I've got kids that will do something totally different. But this is not a vocational program. It's just a belief that in our high school, this is what makes a well-rounded kid. And that's, what we all believe, is that we know that we are the program for everybody. We know we are the classes for everybody. And we got to just keep, at every chance we can, pushing that message so that we get others to believe in it, because we know it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And, kind of, I'm in the, part of my career where I'm just trying to light the fire, and not every kid is going to be down with electric cars or want to work on engines or want to touch the tools or whatever. Sometimes they just sit there. But if I can get them involved in little contests and get them excited, and then see the creativity happen, and then basically it's the application of it. And then what happens is, you'd be surprised. The funniest thing, I mean, not you guys, but the funniest thing about it is, you'll have a kid that has, let's say, an engineering family. The mom or the dad do something in tech, and then it's only until they bring home something from shop class do the parents actually connect the dots. So, for instance, a kid made a little flashlight and brought it home, and then she said that her dad did not know that she was even in a shop class, and yet he's like, what, I don't remember exactly. He might have been an engineer or construction worker or something like that. But so it starts to connect the dots, and then the parents are like, oh, interested. And then they pursue that path a little further with the kid. And whereas before it's like isolated, the kid plays video games, the parents do this. It's kind of like not part of the same thing. And then, not that there's anything wrong with, we can play video games, but it's just that connects the dots because it's an actual 3-dimensional thing that the kid is working on and they're excited about. So it's, whereas in all the other classes, it's sort of heavy on memorization. And, luckily the art classes are pretty good, but it is unbalanced. I'll say one more thing about the unbalance of the schools. I played baseball and basketball, and I absolutely loved all the confidence built from the sports. However, how many kids are actually going to be paid athletes on the field? That is a stretch. You know what I mean? Like, what a stretch that is, And so I've asked this question, hey, how many kids, paid athlete in the last 25 years? And the answer is like 0. And I'm like, what about the last 50 years? Because the school I'm at has been there like 100 years. And I think they have like 1 or 2 paid athletes. So I'm always wondering why the emphasis. Like they were allowed to go to, they're allowed to play sports during COVID, and we weren't allowed. I'm not allowed to teach welding during COVID. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So not to stir up anything, I'm just saying I think that there needs to be a little bit more emphasis on the balance of the topics in the school, and that includes art, that includes whatever they got. But the unbalance, like what you're doing is a major event. You're planning for like the Super Bowl of the installation, and yet like it seems like this crazy thing, but that should be normal. Yeah, because they plan. What if the kids go to playoffs? Then they're planning for the playoffs. They got trainers, they got support staff, they got all these things. The video club is videoing the sports, this and that. Meanwhile, we have to do all this ourselves with no budget because they think shop class is literally just a bunch of kids who are gonna like hammer. They don't have. It's not a Super Bowl playoff for them, but it is. So anyway,
Hey, Ron.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Speaking of that, and Mark can contest to this, attest to this. So we have a media department in our school class. So anytime we have guests, so like when Mark and Bob were at the job site, Tommy TV crew comes over, gets the camera out, films it, video documents it. They make a little montage video real quick of going on when Rockwell's at the job site. Same thing. So we that's exactly what we do. We bring in the other classes, part of it, and me and the teacher, good friends and stuff. So we kind of run this. Well, we've had Neil that was on here, did the Tommy TV, showed us the studio when he was we had him on as a guest.
Cool.
Yeah. Every time we have a guest, professionals on the job site, we bring in Tommy TV and they film the whole thing.
That's awesome. That's how it should be. Normal thing. Because, very, very likely, more likely that someone would come out of your program and either become a general contractor or do some sort of engineering thing, or maybe work with the sponsors that you've built relationships with. So, but the sports thing, or even any other class, like how many published authors are you going to get from English class? Maybe 1 a decade? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what the ratio is, but I think it's unbalanced. That's a fair assessment without ruffling any feathers. What's that?
Sorry, Ron. If you mind the data of people that have come from shop classes and own their own businesses versus people that have come out of sports and never made it anywhere, that number makes the lottery look like a freaking joke.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think it's like ruffling too many feathers by just saying this. We're just talking about balance. I think that's a major unbalanced problem. The thing is with the shop class, you have to kind of do stuff like this. I remember when I first got the job, there was a supervisor at the time. He had done my job for 30 years. He said something that set the tone, and I probably said this, Frank, during that presentation. He said something to me that set the tone for my whole career. He said, don't get used to he's old school. So he goes, hey, don't get used to this, kid, like that. Like, don't get used to this, Like, I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, even if you got tenure, you could get fired. And I was like, wait, why? And he said, because you're an elective and they could just riff the program, which is a reduction in force. So I just treat every year like it's the last. And I'm like, okay, well, if I want this job or if I want to try and help people, I got to do something more than just stay in the classroom and, show up, bing, the bell rings, bing, the bell rings, and I go home. Can't do that. There won't be a program. With not so many words, they've told me there's been fluctuations of whether they're going to continue. Now they're going to continue because, I helped to make a splash, like exactly what Frank's talking about. So, I mean, I think we're preaching to the choir, but the whole point is if another shop teacher is watching this, they should join us to talk about the options. I also want to take a second to point out first year teachers. Can you imagine being a first year shop teacher right now? You're probably like don't know what to do.
Hey, Ron, while you're
yeah.
talking about this, next year, my former student who we're trying to get a teacher, we need to keep that idea in your head. Keep going, though.
Oh, yeah. Have him on the show, right?
Yeah, and talk to him about that. And we'll try to get, Frank, everybody on the loop, not just the main people. Try to bring more people in and
to support him.
Yeah,
for sure. What's his name?
Thomas.
Okay.
Yep.
So
and
the Thomas on there.
Yeah, and he was in the Final Four when they did the wall assembly. So it's gonna be he's gonna be a good one for
your wall
protege
with
okay.
with
Connor and everybody. Yeah. So, but anyways, keep going. I just wanted
no problem.
No.
So the thing about it is, I got a call from. Okay, so let me go on a little side note here. Everybody knows I got a Ford Ranger, and I had a problem where I broke the stud that holds the shock. Anyway, YouTube it. I was like, what do I do? And I found a YouTube guy, and he says, oh, I have a perfect solution. I got in touch with him and thanked him, and we ended up talking. And after 20 years of him being a general contractor and a mechanic, he then decided to be a shop teacher at 51 years old. And he started in September. This is like still a little bit COVID time and whatnot. And he just called me and he said that he was thinking about leaving and that it's overwhelming, this guy is like a tough dude. It's not overwhelming physically. It's not overwhelming technology wise. It's overwhelming that they slam your class with like kids that don't want to be there. They expect the world, and the support is wavering. Not everybody, not every school. I'm just saying it's difficult. And he was going to call me about it before he made his decision, but he waited. And I said, don't wait. Just call me up. The point is, if anybody's watching this and you're a first-year shop teacher or you're thinking about being a shop teacher, you have this support group. And when it's being recorded, it only looks at me. But there's there's 8 people here right now, and they're from all over the country. And so you got this support group, and the shop teachers are here for you. So I think, we got to do a first-year shop teacher recruitment focus video. That would be great, because I don't know what I would have done without the Tech Ed Association my first year. It's very difficult. So that's a lot off the side of the topic. Sorry, let's get back onto Frank.
But no, Ron, that's why we need to support each other, because oftentimes we're singletons. There's nobody else in my entire district that directly teaches something that I teach. I don't share any courses with somebody else. So if we're not supporting each other across the county, the state, and across the country like we are now, that's why we see people leave. And they're just the numbers in my education role or my association role. These statistics are saying something like they think 1/3 of the workforce is going to leave in the next 5 years, whether that's through retirement and by workforce, I mean the teaching workforce, whether it's through retirement or just quitting, saying, wow, I could do something else. I don't like this. And so if we don't start to address that and support each other, I mean, to be honest, I quit my first teaching job, and I think that I'm pretty motivated and I like teaching.
Wait, tell us that story. Come on.
I did. I quit the first job I was in. But it was clear that the school did not support what we were doing. And they were actually creating a schedule that I'm confident I was going to get cut in. They changed how we do electives. They added like all of these weird electives. The short story there is it ultimately didn't work. The kids came to school in September and did not have schedules. The first 6 weeks of school, the kids did not have any schedule. So they actually, years later would call me back and say, we're interested in having you back, which of course I wasn't going to go back. But yeah, I quit and went and got my master's degree because it was just so clear that it was so unsupported, that we were just, where the kids go when the real teachers needed a break.
Wow. What held I don't know how to say this, but the support at the high school where I work came from, oh, sorry, someone's just joining. The support I got was that we had an anchor at the shop, which was we had Tommy Canito, and I know you don't know who this is, but he was like as the oldest old school shop teacher you could possibly imagine. The guy was made out of splinters. He would smoke cigarettes in the shop while giving you instructions on how to go faster while running the table saw accurately with like his finger as the push thing. So it's just it's absurd. Now, I'm obviously exaggerating on, but he had like a rough outer, but he was the nicest guy ever. And I overlapped him by, luckily, probably about maybe 10 years. Oh, geez. I don't know. Maybe about 6 or 7 years. And I learned a lot about, being a tough shop teacher. Not that I'm a tough shop teacher, but I learned how to run the shop and how to kind of like deal with administration, but also deal with your students, and how the toughest kid in the building is probably your best asset down in the shop anyway. So like, it's just great. But if he wasn't there and the tech ed wasn't there, oh man, I don't know what I would do, because, most of these schools, they don't have some old school guy there that's been there. Like, so Tommy Canito was there for 41 years. So he graduated from there. So there's no way they're going to come down and be like, "Oh, we're going to cut your program." It's not possible. He would kill them. So it's just not possible. And he knows everyone. And he's been in the town for his whole life. So without that kind of anchor, or without like breaking the mold, like what Frank's doing, it's very difficult to have a shop class survive. I want to say hello to Sean. Sean just joined us.
Yeah, so Sean's a good buddy of Mark's, and I've gotten to know Sean real well. He's up in Canada, so another professional on here.
Oh, nice.
Well, not
We
a
played
teacher,
softball together in high school.
professional, but and Mark and Sean were on the hockey team together.
Mark, how many years of high school did you go to?
Still going, Duke. I'm on the life year plan.
If he was in college, we'd call him Dr. Willie, but
I think he's played every sport, every position, for everything, right?
yeah.
Also, and Sean, thanks for joining. He's driving. He's got the special lighting where the yellow is just going all over the place.
He's driving a PH 150, Ron.
Sean, I think you're muted too, bud. If you can unmute yourself while you're driving safely.
PH 150. What is that?
The PH 150. It's a passive house 150. We get the F out. We only use PH.
It's awesome. Like it's February with the PH.
Absolutely. It's the month of Passive House.
Passive House Accelerator, baby.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Sean, introduce yourself. You know Matt, but introduce yourself to Frank, who's the presenter tonight, and Nick and Tim and Duke and Ron.
Sorry that I jumped on late. We were just wrapping up the Accelerator event with another kind of legend in May. And so I am back to building. I've just used to be a product consultant and educator with 475. And as of Tuesday, I've gone back to building. But I also teach the Passivist Tradesperson course at BCIT, which is the technical facility here in Vancouver. So it's a real honor to kind of be a teacher or instructor, I would rather say, because and again teaching builders all of the fun details of how to build better buildings. So it's pretty exciting to be involved with that, and again, my wife's a teacher, and so I know the trenches you guys are into, and again, it's exciting to be involved with leading the next generation into better building and everything we do. So nice to meet everybody. Pleasure.
Wow, nice. That's great, man. Thanks for joining. Interesting that you have jumped back and forth. That's a cool thing, because imagine you have such good perspective. I'm gonna pull up the guy I was talking about tonight with who almost like left teaching. Say again, Sean? Oh, sorry. I'm gonna pull up his website. I want to give him a shout out. So maybe you guys could give him a follow and support so that he stays with it. Not that he has to, but this is his YouTube channel. And, what he does is his name's Glenn. And what he does is he does automotive, mostly automotive. And it's real good how-to. And he also has a contracting business. And I think he's on Instagram as well. Let me just pull up his Instagram real quick. Here we go. Yeah, give this guy a follow and give him some encouragement. Yeah. Give him some encouragement because, he's, can you imagine 51 years old? He already knows what he's doing. He's been in the automotive world and also the trade world for a while. And he's getting into teaching. And, it's not easy. They're giving him a hard time. So, yeah, give him a follow and give him some, hey, man, we got your back type of thing. That would be awesome. He would love that. Cool. So let's see. I'm missing out on some of the chat here. Oh, yeah, I pulled up the Duke. I did pull up the map, but I didn't. Cool. So let's get back over to Frank here. And Frank, he's got he's got that article, Promote or Perish, which is right here. And here it is. This is awesome.
That's just the first page. But I do have a PDF of that. I just can't attach in a Google Meet, of course. But if somebody wants the full text, very easy for me to email it to you. I know you can get it through your school librarian, but don't worry.
You want us to put it on our newsletter? That would be great. Right?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. So,
and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm a knowledgeable person about this or the best or anything, but at least we're starting the conversation around promoting our programs, and that's what we know is important.
No, we trusted Frank. It's all right. Frank,
Dude, we forget to mention Frank's an Eagle Scout. Of course, we trust Frank. I didn't do Boy Scout and stuff, but I had college buddies that did that, and I have students that have gone through that. That's a big deal. So yeah, we have to trust Frank, right? It's Scout honor, right?
Important to note, Barbacek is also an Eagle Scout.
That is right. Yes, he is. Yep.
I could tie my shoes. That's probably about it. I don't know any other knots. And outside perspective, when someone says Eagle Scout, I'm like, oh, they can tie knots. I know there's way more to it than that. But that's the one thing I know that I can't do any more than the shoe. Hey, let's say hi to Andrew. Andrew's in the house. Yeah. He's a metal shop teacher up Hudson Valley, I guess. Yeah. Rockland County.
Harbor Freight winner.
That's right.
Yep. And he's killing it this year. He's on fire. Hey, this is the year, man. I feel like there's something brewing. I don't know what's going on. It's almost like when the Ghostbusters finally get their call and they're just like running out of money. And then Janine's like, we got one. Let's go. So it's the mobilized year. This is it, man. I watch a lot of 80s movies, so
Now, Frank, you only have 2 people in your department. It's just you and another person.
No, there are 3 of us, not including our supervisor, who does tech ed and other things. But there is myself, a dedicated woodworking person, and a dedicated computer drafting person.
I got a question for. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I say, and they don't cross over in terms of teaching like anything with you, or
I do teach one section of our Woods 1 program, and Paul teaches probably three a year, 3 or 4. That fluctuates, but 3 or 4. But neither of them teach in my lab at all. And I don't ever teach in our drafting lab. And then he's part of our family, but we do have a middle school STEM person. So it's kind of considered the 4 of us, although not part of our high school team, but certainly part of our tech ed family at our district.
Frank, I want to ask you a question about this connection right here. You are on American Plumber Stories. Now,
This is the coolest thing I've ever done.
All right.
Let me just say it.
Do it.
So American Plumber Stories, we were in this past week's video. So it came out this past Monday night. American Plumber Stories, if you're unfamiliar with it and you're on Instagram or Facebook, go and follow them. The work they do is so neat. But American Plumber Stories is brought to us by the Pfister Faucet Company in partnership with Rigid Tools. I've actually got a Rigid t-shirt on right now under this shirt. But what they're doing is they're trying to show the world, and you can watch their great YouTube videos. They're not that long, but they're trying to show that you could be a plumber and still have a really great life, because it had a lot of negative connotation. That person in that video, Craig Morgan, is actually one of my favorite country music singers. He's the host. That's how I found out about it, following Craig's things. He did a Zoom call with my class during our episode, or during the shooting of our episode, and which was super neat for me. Honestly, some of the kids didn't really know who he was, but a really cool thing to see somebody that's so high profile taking an interest in what we do. American Plumber Stories, they say that their mission is to inspire, educate, and entertain. And they're really now starting to transfer to this educate. They, because they knew the need was there was not enough plumbers. That's where the whole creation of this is. But now they're really starting to say, if we really want to fix this, it's that educate we need to focus on. So we are not the only one they've done in a school, but we're by far the longest episode significantly they've done. I don't begin to come into this until about halfway through it. The episode itself focuses on George, who is become a very good friend of mine. George the plumber, he goes by on Instagram, 35,000 followers or something just remarkable. But it tells his story, how he became a plumber, and why he's passionate about Habitat for Humanity and passionate about education. Then it goes to us. And you see, a lot of great videos there. My principal's in it. My assistant superintendent's in it. Both of them discussing the need for programs like what we do. And not every single school administrator, would get up there and say on something that's already been seen almost 10,000 times, that this is important. It interviews our students. They talk about how much this class means to them. One of them brings up the fact that, he never thought that he would really be highlighted for anything all that special academically. But we are now, because we created this program. That's the CEO of Mars Habitat, an incredible supporter of our program, one who I work with very closely. But this is, it's 25 minutes long. It's the length of a full-blown episode of something on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. So it's not a short watch. If you really want to do something short, I put some links to like 3 or 4 minute videos that our local news sources put out. But I know I'm going to, I'm very partial to this, of course, and I'm so emotionally invested in this. But I don't believe that you could watch this and not feel good, not bring a tear to your eyes, the way that they tell the story, the way that they're explaining what we're doing. And I'm really excited to see this. Came out this past Monday. Already starting to get some people say, how can we do this in our schools?
Wow.
I'm interested to see where this takes us from here. So, I hate to promote myself too much, but if you could spare that 25 minutes, I think you're going to love this. I will admit, that it's been watched close to 10,000 times. I might be 15 of them, myself alone. But it's just such a wonderful video. There's our call with Craig Morgan right there. But it's so
look at this class. This is your high school class.
This is both of my classes together. So I pulled the kids for an in-school field trip this day when we did this. So this is all, oh gosh, I think it's 18 students in total. It's 18 or 19 students. It's all of us together. We're not normally all together like this, but this is all of us together. But in the video, our members of our Board of Ed are there. Member sponsors are here. Habitat staff is here. Even he's not in the video, but even my dad came and watched for a little bit. It was such a cool day. And the kids were excited to have all these cameras here and to tell our story. And, this came up recently, but I know that another staff member at my school said something along the lines of, why does Frank always have the news crews here? I've been on 4 different news stations plus this. That's 5 TV crews. Why does Frank always have the news here? And a key leader of our district said to them, I don't know. How come you don't have the news here?
Bam.
Yes.
Nice.
That's and we're really starting to make that change. That this is neat. This is important. Let's make sure everybody knows about it.
Wow, that's amazing. That came out of that guy's mouth or that person's mouth.
Oh yeah.
No,
Well,
that's
you're always
amazing.
going to get some sort of dissent. I like it. I like the opposition. It's funny to me. So, I have a naive question. Forgive me. This is Habitat for Humanity. Can you explain what that situation is? Okay, I assume they build houses and donate them for people.
Right.
in
So
need.
Habitat for
But I
Humanity.
have a very like washy point of view. I don't know what exactly they do.
Habitat for Humanity International is the international parent organization that oversees all of this. The local levels, the ones that you have maybe seen in your neighborhood, are local affiliates. And the relationship could best be described as like McDonald's in my town is owned by an individual, but still part of that McDonald's umbrella. So we work with Morris Habitat for Humanity. I'm from Morris County. I'm from and teach in Morris County, New Jersey.
This it?
Morris Habitat for Humanity. This is them.
Okay.
There's that event I talked about earlier, the big fundraising event that we built things for. That's going to be a virtual only event this year. It's free to attend. They're going to highlight our course as well. That comes up the end of this month. Shameless plug. But always.
Look at this. Hearts and Hammers.
Hearts and Hammers Gala. But Morris Habitat for Humanity is the largest affiliate in the state of New Jersey. And what we do here is that we focus, of course, on a variety of things. Many people don't know we've got a restore that helps to fund it, where when they sell used furniture and things like that are donated, building supplies. They've got an aging in place program to ensure that everybody can stay in their home as long as possible. So a lot of ramp work, a lot of handholds in bathrooms.
Oh, I get it. Sorry, Frank.
Aging in place. Aging in place.
I get it.
Is the name of the program.
Yeah, help them out. So that if you got a 2-story home, maybe you put an elevator or a stair thing. Okay.
They don't do that as much, but certainly ramps in and out of the homes. But really trying to make sure that you should be able to stay in your home as long as we can possibly make that happen for somebody. That's going to be usually a elderly person. Well, not necessarily always, but that's usually where that clientele is. A home repairs program, which is kind of what it sounds like, and a lot of fixing people in existing homes. Habitat believes that everybody should have an affordable, safe, and decent place to live. A lot of that is exterior work, helping to ensure water stays out. A lot of roof work, a lot of great work there. But perhaps the largest and best known aspect of what Habitat does is its new home builds. So they will build homes through volunteers. I myself am a member of what we call our Morris Habitat Faithful, our faithful core of volunteers that are out there, multiple times a year. And many of those guys are out there multiple times a week doing what they can. But they're building new homes that ultimately will be a family will be selected who gets the home. And they're not quite given it. They have to make a certain criteria. They have to make above a certain amount, but below a certain amount. Because they have to be able to, we know that they're going to be able to sustain. We don't want to hinder them with yet another bill. We want to make sure that this is really doable. They then have to complete 300 to 400, depending on the size of the family, sweat equity hours where they have to put time into their own home to support Habitat so that they've got stake in the game. If you're selected, you effectively win a house like a lottery, where everybody who applies and meets all the criteria goes into a raffle. Somebody comes out the winner. They begin their sweat equity. They have to complete coursework in personal finance. They have to. They've already gone through a credit check before they were given the home. They have to complete coursework in home repair.
That would be good.
And all of this is because Habitat believes that we don't give a handout, we give a hand up. They will ultimately get a mortgage at a reduced rate for what would have normally been a house of a similar size. In that area. They are modest homes. This sits on less than a third of an acre. The house that we're doing, it's a very modest Habitat home. They will get that mortgage, though. They'll put down, I think it's 10%, and they get a 0% mortgage, which of course is, phenomenal. But it really believes in making sure that these people are going to have that home. It's a 30-year deed restriction. So if they wanted to sell that home, which happens infrequently, but could happen based if somebody needs to move or whatever.
Look,
It
you're
has
on
to be
the
another
you're on the
low
current
income.
projects. Oh, sorry, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are this is a real project, and it's a great project that other schools have done where they just do the panels. They raise a bunch of money, they buy the studs, they cut, nail, screw them all together, and ship them out to a site. That is a phenomenal thing for high schools to do. We kicked it up a notch for sure. I'm sure this video, I don't know if it's still loading, but it's probably one of our news stories. Yeah, Matt.
So what you're just saying about building the panels and shipping them out, when I taught at the prison before I started teaching high school, it's exactly what we did. We worked with all the local area habitats. I don't know, however many counties, but our prison facility where I taught at, I taught for a college. By the time I left there, I think we had done 223 or 27 houses, and me and the inmates would prefab the walls, just like you showed that picture early on where they're stacked. We would stay in 3 days. We'd draw up plans into the panels, build them, stand them up out in the sally port, check them for square, stack them back up, and the truck would come and we'd ship them off Thursday, and by Sunday they were under roof. But yeah, awesome.
And
program.
that's a great thing. That is, and I hope that I convey it well. I am so personally passionate about what Habitat does, separate from my school world. I believe in this both with my volunteer time and financially. I believe in what we do. So any school that's going to do that is awesome. Any company that's going to do that is awesome, and providing a service that Habitat needs. We know we kicked it up 110%, right? We brought it up to a level that Habitat had not seen before. And I'm interested to see, is something like this going to become replicated? And we're already starting to have these conversations. Do we attend the International Habitat Affiliate Conference and share our story there? I'm actually sharing the story at the ITA, our National Teaching Conference, next month. But, do we go to that the next time it happens and share our story and see, can we get other habitats interested? So, it's just a wonderful place. It's a wonderful project. And really, it's just unique. It's unique is the best way to describe it. But yeah, this is a great video. I know we're not listening to it with sound, but we can make sure you get that link. But it's just a 3 or 4 minute feel good story. The guy who did this, and I hate to get on another tangent, but he's got something like 8 Emmy Awards, the director of this video.
Wow.
I knew when he was there, I was like, wow, this guy is the best.
Oh, this is you guys signing the
studs,
studs,
so
right?
They had me read what that's actually a mother of a student, and she wrote something there. Randy's mom, I could tell you, I know where that is in the house, but she wrote something about how proud she is that her son built this home. So they'll have me read that. I'll also read Kyle signed the wall, and then underneath it, his dad wrote "Proud Dad." So just really cool things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. This is great.
Well, a 1 minute version of your story is going to get told down IBS with Reisinger, Frank.
And thank you so much for that. I'll make sure to really thank you in person when we get to really meet in person. But just know how much I appreciate that and how excited my colleague John and I are to be part of that.
It's awesome.
And like I said, it was a complete coincidence that we're going to be there together. I was already going to tell Frank's story as one of the highlight programs that I was going to highlight in my little 10-minute spiel I got to give. And once I found out Frank was going,
and I'll tell you that the colleague, so the colleague I'm taking, John, a very good friend of mine, the two of us are running this program together. He is a Matt Reisinger nerd. He loves this guy. So if there's any way that we could facilitate him meeting him, that's going to be the best thing that happens to him all school year. And that person,
all right, we'll take care of it.
Yeah. That person is actually unique.
I'll make sure that happens.
The person that I kind of co-teach with is actually not a teacher, but we hire a master in residence who is more of a construction expert. because they know, hey, Frank doesn't know how to do this, right? And that's okay. I have the teaching license. I have the experience with educating. I understand how to discipline the kids. We hire somebody that comes in 2 or 3 days a week to help me and the students learn the construction aspect. His name is John. He is the key to success to this program. He is not only one of my best friends, but just one of the, I mean, he's just great at what he does. A former Habitat employee that unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, he decided to leave his role at Habitat when his kids had to go
Hey, thanks, Sean.
to school. But now we were able to give him a little bit of a different type of job, a different type of hours that is more flexible, and while still leaning on his incredible knowledge base. So that's actually, I know Tim asked before, how many people are in my department? He's like, that 4.5 guy, because he's part of our team, but he's not a traditional part of our team.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And I love that shot to show how clearly this is a school parking lot.
Yeah.
It still bothers me how many teachers are like, oh, I didn't know that Frank was building a house. It's in the damn parking lot. Haven't you noticed?
Hey, Ron, don't move the screen. I'm going to screenshot this off my computer
Good idea.
and possibly use this in the thing, because this is the idea that I'm talking about, like as options. Like I said, when we worked at the prison, we had a sally port. It was just a slab of concrete. Like almost every school except Ron has a parking lot, right? So,
right.
So I'm going to screen.
There's no parking lot. You should see what I have to do just to get into my auto shop. I had to make an announcement to get the car out of there that was blocking us. They blocked the driveway.
You keep on going if I got the screenshot.
Well, so this kind of rolls into, maybe we could tie this all up with to steal a line. What a nice bow is. Let's talk about IBS and what you guys are going to do down there. So, I mean, I'm jealous. I wish I was going. This looks awesome. Where are you going to be in this thing? Like, where are you guys at? I don't even know.
Have you been before, Matt?
I haven't. I've been to others. I've been to Roofing Convention. I've been to World of Concrete out in Vegas, but I've not been to IBS. So I'm pretty excited. It's my first one. But I tell you what, I mean, I know how big those things are. You won't cover it in a day. It takes all 3 days. If you want to see it all, it'll take all 3 days.
Yeah, we're flying in Monday night, so that we didn't want to miss any time on Tuesday. So we're flying in Monday night, flying home Friday morning.
Yeah, Carmen, my wife's coming with, so we'll be getting in Monday night sometime. Then, so for me, I'm going down there.
Matt, what does the IBS stand for?
International Builder Show.
Okay.
I was prompted to ask that.
Or my wife, who's the nurse practitioner, it's the irritable bowel syndrome.
At least this year, it's done in conjunction with the National Kitchen and Bath Show.
Yes.
So both shows will happen at the same time.
Yep. So people can slide over there. Now for me, on the way I ended up getting to go was, like I said, I'm not popular and famous on Instagram. I mean, with our little niches, maybe, but my friends on Instagram are popular and famous. So thanks to them, in a connection with Sashco, when I was down there at Kansas City at the Midwest Building Science Symposium, when I was over there, my friend Travis Brungart, he connected me with Charlotte from Sashco, who wanted to get something going. Her dad was a trades teacher, a tradesman. I'm not sure what he did, but she, in fact, told me this today. She's like, this is very passionate. I want to do something that creates more opportunities, shines a better light on trades. She goes, because my dad was in the trades, and he was sometimes treated like somebody from a third world country kind of thing, and so what her thing is, she wants to bring pretty much all these conversations we're all having, and things are happening with like Frank, his story and my story are lining up very similarly, just in a little bit different routes, but like the attention and everything kind of just snowballing is very much in line. And this stuff is kind of happening in places And, you know, like obviously with Shop Class Podcast, we're trying to do this for other teachers as well. And she wants to bring that all together and see how we can get companies to pretty much say, ultimately create a foundation or follow suit behind Harbor Freight Tools for Schools and say, okay, every year, these 10 companies say, I will donate, say, $10,000. So we get $100,000. We're going to go start up a program like Frank's or mine or whoever's, and we're going to start at this school. The school said they have administration that's on board. They have community that's on board. We have the financing to make it happen for you. You have the support. And so what her ultimate goal is bring about all these conversations kind of in one place down here at IBS with some big players and get this conversation not even just started, but actually try to get it moving towards the call of action of something happening. So that's how I got kind of involved. Travis recommended me to Charlotte. Charlotte reached out, and she was working with Matt Reisinger, which the trades guys are probably going to know who Matt Reisinger is. He's big time YouTube, building science guy, builder. He pretty much took, instead of sharing all his money with YouTube on advertisement, he created a whole network, and he's brought in people. Well, Steve Basic, who we all know, he's been on the show with us as a contributor. Jake Bruton, who's been Steve and Jake, who've been very influential and supportive of my program. He has a few other contributors on there. Anyways, pretty much the idea is use Matt Reisinger as the celebrity, quote unquote, and use his platform to take what we're talking about and help spread that word and get us more connected with other companies. We have some big companies that are going to be there. Obviously, we got Frank's going to be there. Mike DeGuidis is a teacher. He's also going to be there, who's another one I was just happened is going to talk about his program, and he just happens going to be there. Anyways, the idea is to say, hey, this is what happening out in the community. We got people like Frank. We got people like Mike. We got my program. We got Matthew Barberchuk, who is at a much smaller scale, but still doing things, right? So what can we do? What's it going to take to scale either those programs up or create whole new programs like mine, or Frank's is another perfect option where they can build houses in the parking lot, and it can go to Habitat for Humanity or any other program. I mean, there's all kinds of, vet programs, Habitat for Humanity programs. I mean, there's, programs that people need all over. So, and there's a, housing shortage. We can solve a lot of problems. So that's why I'm getting there. Sashko's taking care of me to get down there. And so I guess technically I'm obligated to them now for that night and stuff. But
Wait,
they
Matt, can I use
very supportive of all this. This is awesome.
Matt, there's some leaks on my Ford Ranger on the top of the window. Can I use Sashko to seal it?
Yeah. Look for is it Lexel? Lexel? I think their sealant. Like you can apply it like in water, I believe.
Oh my God!
Like I'm a big fan. They're Big Stretch, and they're through the roof. I've been using their products forever. So, I'm actually I probably will meet these guys, the Perkin brothers, while we're there. I don't know if they'll. They might. Guys? I think you scrolled past one. Yeah, these guys are out in. I forget. They're either south of North Carolina. They're really good. They do a lot of good videos.
Wow. Cool.
Basic will be there. Dan Edelman from Rockwell, he's going to be at this one. There's actually going to be quite a few people, some big name players with the companies. Not everybody in this group probably knows them, but as far as the trade side of things, they're pretty big names. So, I'm excited. Like I'm going to meet up with Dave Cooper at some point when I'm down there. Me, Duke, and Ron were just on the show with. Yep.
Yeah, we had a good time meeting Dave.
Those are kind of my obligation, or I would say obligations.
Opportunity.
Those are some of the things on my agenda, and then the rest of it is just going around and meeting some people I haven't got to meet in person that I know is going to be there, and then check out all the cool stuff that's going on in the industry. Man, I'm just as excited about that.
Wow,
Oh, and then
no
my wife
kidding.
and I after on Friday are going to dip into Disney. So,
Oh yeah. So I'm jealous. So I want like give me a report or at least a text or something. Be like, oh, it's awesome. Now they're gonna be so busy that we'll get the report when you guys get back. So so next Wednesday, coming up Wednesday, you guys will be down there. So that'll be and then the week after you'll need to decompress, and we'll get a report at some point. So stay tuned for that. While you're down there, we're going to have Outlaw Drums on the show, which is from a suggestion from Mark. And basically, I guess they hollow out some logs or something. I don't know. Basically, it's handcrafted drums. Pretty cool. And then we're actually having another build person on coming up the week after that. We got Girls That Frame. And she was on the podcast with Mike Kanoki. Yeah. So that was pretty good.
and speaking of Mike Kanoki and when Mike, what's Mike's last name? Anshel.
Oh yeah,
that we had on here. OA builds.
Yep.
When he was on here, he was on Mike's podcast, and I haven't listened to it yet. I have a bookmark, but I think there was a shout out to Shop Class Podcast on there on Mike's podcast.
Oh, that's great. They do a good they do a good podcast. I enjoy listening to it.
Yeah.
Some podcasts you can't listen to, but that was good. So I'll check it out. Cool. Oh, here we go.
I'd be careful though. Don't listen to the podcast that comes out next week, guys.
Oh my God, is Mark going to be on there? I want a thermal break. I need a thermal break, guys. Or a thermal bridge. Give me a bridge.
Ron, that's a bad word. We don't say thermal bridge.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, that's the opposite of what you're looking for. Or a koozie, right? Koozie's a thermal break. I love it. Very cool. This is awesome. Exciting stuff happening. I mean, we got the show coming up. And geez, there's so many things. I can't even keep up. I don't know how it's gonna happen.
Hey, Ron, can you show the video that finally had a few more points than Matt's?
Which one?
Oh yeah,
Matt might have been competing on his own project.
Wait, is it when you presented, Mark? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he did an Instagram reel that. Where are we at now, Mark? On it? It was at art when Mark was at the job site. He did it.
Yeah, I got that.
What are we at? 320? Is that what you just said?
Oh my!
It's at 320. It's at dormant until Friday, and from Friday to today, it got like 290,000 views.
This one?
No,
you may have to go to Mark's to see it.
This one has 13K. What are you talking about?
No, wait. It's crazy. So
stop right there. It's nothing. That's 13K.
No, hey, Ron, scroll down. There's one for 225,000 from Matt right there. Look at that one. Play that.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this.
And this is them doing the nail game, the hammer slogging game. And Chris there shanked the nail and it shot out. And so I had like NSYNC's Bye 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 to it. We had 227,000 views. Now go to Mark's Instagram.
Okay.
Go to Mark Willie's.
So Matt and I were silently trying to bring awareness to Student Built by competing on videos, and we're just trying to gain awareness. And after 2 weeks of being up, this thing went from 30,000 on a Friday to a half a week later, 300,000. You just can't figure this out. Keep scrolling. You're almost there. It's so random. I mean, Steven Basic, he was laughing about it, Matt. You know the story.
Yeah.
Look at this.
It's such a great design of having a floating floor. You're almost there, Ron.
20,000 right here.
Keep going.
That was
my-
the sash going. Yep,
my
almost
God.
there. Almost there. Hold on, you're almost there. All right, right there. Look at that.
What? Oh, this is just a tour of the school.
That's showing the open concept of their floating floor. Turn the volume up, Ron.
Okay, here we go.
Framing with an added zip bar. Boy, those electricians are gonna have fun with this bare naked T-stud. Check that out. Okay,
Wow.
so look at this floor. 2 layers of Halo, 2 layers of Advantech. Man, open floor plan. Taylorville, student built. Thermally.
That's amazing.
I mean, it is probably my worst audio ever. But the fact that you get to hear student built and you get to hear Taylorville, those are easy things to quick Google, and hopefully that gets back to Matt and the program and what they're doing. It was random that this took off, totally random.
That's amazing. That is amazing. We'll send this out.
Pretty crazy. The comments on there, Matt's been helpful in diffusing some of the knuckleheads that come up. The whole point of doing this, Ron, all and again it was remarkable. If you look at that, look at how organized and clean it is. I've been on job sites since before I can ride a bike, actually, and this is impeccable. Like everything
that's a good point.
is this good.
No, thanks for pointing that out. You know what? I took that for granted when I'm looking at this.
Oh my God.
This looks better than a classroom and better than a job site. Yeah,
in
Matt,
the middle of winter with 4 inches of slop mud on the outside with 20 students arriving 3 mornings in a row and 3 afternoons in a row. That's impeccable.
My desk here has more clutter than this entire house.
That's what he said. That's right.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable. It's exemplary. Just the respect that this program has on what they're delivering to the community. You don't have professionals carrying this kind of respect on their shoulders. It's incredible.
No, I got a tech question. Why does the floor come up over the like it's higher than the bottom of the stud here? Is that normal? I don't know what I'm doing.
So typically it's not, but that's over top of a slab. So the walls are built on the slab, and then in between the walls on top of the slab, we threw 2 layers of 2-inch insulation board down. That was the Halo he was talking about. And then we threw on the 2 layers of Advantech subfloor. So there's another 1.5 inches. So 5.5 inches of insulation / floor subfloor stacked on top of concrete. So that's why
it's like super insulated, right?
Yeah, so that's why you have those studs here, but the floor actually levels out up here because there's a slab underneath. Now in the middle there's a crawl space that doesn't have any insulation, but the crawl space itself is highly insulated.
Wow.
And that's where the rock wool and stuff came into play there.
Do you anticipate the energy bill of this house being like really good?
It should be.
Okay.
Like I haven't got to talk to the other homeowners about how their bill is.
Measurable. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. But
is there a measurable? Can you measure that against something similar in size?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
I'm sure I could probably even talk. Ameren is our provider, and I could probably get a hold and be like, hey, what in our area, obviously not giving me any specific names or addresses, but a house approximately this size or in this neighborhood, what are they spending on, say, heating and electricity? What's the average, energy use? We could probably get that information. I mean, it wouldn't be the exact address they wouldn't give me, I'm sure, but I mean, sure, we could get that information. Now, it just all depends on who the homeowner is and if they'd want to forfeit that information to me later, like saying, in a year's time or something.
Yeah. Did we lose Frank? Where is he at?
Oh yeah, he messaged on there. He said he got to get rolling.
Oh,
to
I
get ready
didn't
for
even know.
tomorrow.
I didn't even know. Well, that's good. I mean, that was a good episode, learning a lot about what Frank does, and then also the excitement around you guys meeting up at IBS. It's so cool. There's a lot going on.
Ron, you never
Yeah.
asked him the first question.
Oh, you did it.
That's crazy. We forgot the first question.
It's
Did
because
you have shop?
the conversation got going and we had to hit record real quick.
Yeah, we were too.
Then I have to do that as an added reel, Duke, right? That's a great soundbite.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that would be cool. You could just send it in.
I'll tell you what, if Frank could get going on his Instagram even more, especially with as much like,
because he's got energy.
Oh yeah, and he's I mean, over there in that area, like media wise, he's everywhere. Like,
it's unbelievable
on the TV. I mean, he's
the biggest tip I could give him is to go by Frank C, because when you add the last name, everyone goes right. It's a little bit harder, right? There's some last names that are easy, like Lazowski, right? Easy as pie, but
yeah, it's true. And then maybe CC.
I say, does anybody here have an easy name for a last name?
I don't. People are like
Blomquist, Lazowski, Willie, Grossinger,
Bloomquist with a Q.
With Q and an I.
Bodnar.
Not Quest.
What about Bodnar?
What's Nick's last? Nick, what's your last name? I don't know if I ever.
Bodnar.
It's spelled Bodnar, but we pronounce it Bodner.
There's always a thing. Everybody has a thing about their last name.
And I mess up Andrews all the time. I'm sure. Sawakis. I can't. You gotta say it, Andrew, if you're there.
Sawakis. You got it.
I was right.
I think.
Nice.
No, I'm Mr. S. That's all it is.
Yeah,
I'm Bloomy. I mean,
I'm Mr. G. That's it. You can't. I don't even bother explaining my last name.
Although,
but in the Midwest, Ron, there's a famous guy called Grossinger, right?
So the Chicago dealership, right?
Oh yeah, gotta go to Grossinger. Everyone knows it. Gotta go to Grossinger, right?
That's amazing.
And from Taylorville up to Chicago, to Bolingbrook, you go past Grossinger. Is it track? I think a racetrack or something.
Really?
Whenever we were going up to the state championship for my stepdaughter's basketball game, I kept forgetting to have my camera ready to take the picture because, of course, I'm driving, so it didn't matter anyway. But
in fact, I worked 2 part-time jobs just to buy the billboards that say "Gotta go to Grossinger." I buy them wherever I can just to get it going. People have no idea what it means, but it's coming.
That's so funny. And it's probably 2 S's, which is there's a weird thing because my family had a
Murder Arena.
Oh, no kidding! I gotta go. What? This is ridiculous.
It's Bloomington. It's in Bloomington.
That's classic.
Yours is 1S, right, Ron?
Well, so it's complicated. On my on the birth certificate, it's 1S, but we had a family bakery and it was 2. I don't know why, but for some reason. Ellis Island, they've messed up everybody's name. So when we came through, I don't know why, but my grandfather started the bakery with 2 S's, but on paper it was 1.
What nationality is Grossinger?
Well, we're kind of like Hungarian. So my grandparents are on my dad's side are from Hungary, and then so it's Hungarian. But I don't know if the name is Hungarian. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. We have a Jewish background. I'm not religious, but we have a Jewish background, so it's kind of like a Jewish name, I guess. I don't know.
Well, Judaism's not a religion, right?
No, but I don't think it's a Hungarian name.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was an S and 2 S's is also interesting. Wow. Huh.
So and it's actually interesting timing. My dad, who is like 83, he he finally wrote he wanted to write a little book about the bakery and about because it was started in 1935 by his dad, my grandfather, and he was not going to write it. He's like one of these guys who's like, oh, I'm going to write a book, and he's never going to do it. So we finally hooked him up with someone who would just listen to him talk, and then we got it. Yeah, we got it out. If anybody in your family says they're going to write a book, just hire someone to listen to them and write it down. They're not going to write the book. It's not happening.
Right.
Yeah. So he finally wrote it, and we called it Breaking Eggs, which is kind of like a blessing and a curse. Let me try and find. He just came out with the book. I haven't even read it yet, and he's taking quotes from a bunch of people in the family. Let me just see. Hold on. Eggs, and they put it on Amazon, which is pretty amazing. There we go. Okay, I actually recorded him. Early podcasts of him. I have 10 episodes where 15 minutes each. I just listen to him tell me stories about the bakery. This is it right here. There we go. That's the bakery. And that was on 76th Street and Columbus Ave in Manhattan. I worked there from, I don't know, when I was as a kid, all the way up to probably about 21 or so. And then the rent was it was crazy in Manhattan. Manhattan went from like a reasonable place to like Disneyland, and only Disneyland can afford Disneyland. So now it's all corporate. Like, instead of a bakery, now there's like a Chase Bank.
I like that it says ice cream cakes are a specialty, right? Like, so bold, right? Like, just claim it and own it.
Yeah. Yeah, they made this. So they made this cake where they would have coffee ice cream, and then in each layer there was a praline, which is kind of like a hazelnut paste. Yeah. So it was coffee ice cream, praline, and I would make these in a form. You'd have to do it by hand. It was really crazy. They had no automation was not part of what my dad did. Not by choice, just by he was not into tech. It literally just, if we had a mixing machine, that spinning was like an automation. That was amazing. But anyway, so we did it by hand, and then you'd have to freeze it, refreeze it, pull it out, and then overnight, and then let it go out of the mold, and then you cover it with mocha whipped cream, and you decorate it. And we did this whole thing, and then it killed. People loved it because coffee ice cream is like killer. Like, people love that, especially with the praline layers. Anyway, this guy, this is the whole story. Names. We got into names.
I have to admit, Ron, when I think of coffee ice cream, the first thing I think of is Grossinger's Home Bakery.
Yes! There we go. That's so funny. So, there's some stories in there. I don't know what they put in. I spoke with the writer one time, and then I just told stories of me being an idiot teenager and like delivering cake. Like, one time I went to go deliver a cake in the front door of a super high end restaurant, and the major D was like, blew me off. But like, I was like a punk ass teenager, so I was like holding two cakes, and they're heavy. So I just walked past him, and he like, whoa. He's like, dude, you go around the service entrance. And I was like, all right. He kicked me out. I had to go back around the block and find the service entrance. What did I know? I like literally just got my license and drove a truck, and it's double parked, and I'm freaking out because you can't double park in New York. They'll ticket you in 5 minutes. So I had to go around, just stuff like that. It's just, you just learn the hard way, Anyway. Cool. All right, let's kill the recording. Anybody still hanging around and listening to this? That's amazing. Shop Class Podcast. Next week we got the drum guy. Jeez, what's it called again? Badass Drums or something like that. Let's just say that real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there it is. Outlaw Drums. And we'll see them next week. All right. Thanks for joining. Stop the recording. Boom.